Hello and welcome to another New Catholic Generation trailer review. This is a special panel for us for a couple of reasons. One, we finally have a new studio, all of our own. Previously, we had to, at first, use our university's studio whenever it was available. It's become a lot less available recently. And then over the summer, we were filming mainly out of our living room. Which was quite an endeavor because we had to clear everything out and then set up all the lights, set up all the cameras every single time we wanted to film. But now we finally have a room that we've been setting up with all sorts of stuff, and we're still figuring out some of the audio issues and all the set things and everything behind the scenes, but it's going to allow us to film a lot more regularly and consistently in our own space. And it's mainly in thanks to all of our patrons over on Patreon. You guys have helped to fund this new place, so thank you very much. We also just recently hit 20,000 subscribers on the channel.
Man, a lot of people. Like
probably just bots from India, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Catholic bots, though. They probably love it.
Oh, yes. Catholic bots.
There you go. Oh, it's awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you to our Patreon donors and subscribers as well. You made this possible, you're making it possible to keep going. So thank you so much.
And as a way of saying thank you to all of you guys, we are hoping to do a live stream. If you've been following Joe on his channel, The Catholic Apologist, he's been doing live streams every week.
I have been.
And to celebrate the 20,000 subscribers, we're going to do it on the main channel with all of us. We haven't figured out the exact time at the time of this recording, but we will have it on screen when we figured out the time that works for all of us. And we hope we can see you there for that.
Be there or be a square.
I want to be a circle. Or a triangle, because that's a trinity.
Well, I'm glad you guys are in shape.
Oh, I actually want to be a ring wraith.
No, Ned, I'm not going to let you.
Dang it.
Also, I haven't even introduced everybody's names yet, but this is the first time in 5 months that me, David, Renee, Ned, and Joe are all finally back together to watch a trailer together.
LOL, hi.
LOL.
Gotcha, I'm back.
Yes, Renee is back. She's been busy with a lot of stuff. She had her thesis to do at the beginning of this spring.
Yeah, I had to graduate school.
Theses are always fun.
Yeah, and then I went back home, so I wasn't even around. But now I am back.
She's back. And now, today we are here to watch the trailer for Novitiate. Have any of you guys heard of it before?
No.
No.
So, I guess we'll get into it then.
A nun? Oh, good, Lane. You're a 17-year-old girl.
I was called, and I'm going to become a nun, and there's really nothing that you can say that's going to make me change my mind.
Go, girl.
Yeah.
Since unfortunately God can't be here to run this convent himself, my voice will serve as a stand-in for his. You'll be spending the next 6 months as postulants. After that, you'll enter the novitiate. Any questions? Put your hand down, sister. Postulants don't have questions. And you are free to go home.
Wait, what?
What is this you're reading?
Something to do with this Vatican II.
Is it the Cathedral of
Our
Learning?
Pope has suddenly turned himself into some sort of reformer.
Well, that's a good thing. Perhaps change is
You
good.
think the church is in need of change? I happen to think the church is perfect the way it is.
Are you still encouraging all of your novitiates for extreme acts of penance?
I would like you to use the discipline on yourself.
That's got to stop.
I don't think you really understand what this will do to us.
We're not supposed to think about each other because we're not here for each other. We are here only for God.
Maybe I could just touch your hand for a second.
We're really not supposed to touch like that.
What is going on here? She looks like she's dying. I think it's wrong of you to keep us in the dark.
The church gave me my work, my community, even my identity. And now the church is trying to invalidate all that, saying none of it matters. So my question is, what is it that really does still matter?
That put me in a weird trance. That was so weird, but not weird. Had a point.
I smell an artsy movie.
I just got like, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy.
Definitely.
And if mama's not mentally stable, it kind of affects everyone else as well.
Yeah.
That's rough.
So from what I've gathered, this story takes place before Vatican II.
Takes place during Vatican II.
Oh, it's during Vatican II, that's why.
1964,
Yeah. So the story is we got this young girl. She comes from actually an agnostic family, but she gets a scholarship to go to a Catholic school in her teens. And while she's there, she feels a call by God to be a nun. And so she ends up going to this convent that has a very strict Reverend Mother.
Wrong one. Go to another one, please.
Also, if she got baptized first, but yeah.
And then, this Reverend Mother freaks out when she hears about Vatican II. She's terrified of all the change that she thinks it's going to bring, and she really worries that it's going to reduce her authority. So it just makes her even more strict and even more extreme in her discipline and her punishments and everything else. And it results in a crisis of faith for a lot of the nuns at this convent. So that is the premise.
Creative.
Creative.
It is creative.
I'm scared.
If I don't know if such a thing ever happened, but it's an interesting thought if there was someone who reacted that way.
Here's the thing. So there are actually quite a few people who hated and still hate Vatican.
I know, but they didn't like take it out on their fellow Catholics. Sorry.
Well, you see, the thing is, how many people are there in the world?
A lot. So there could have been one like this.
I mean, there might have been one. There might have been a few. You never know. But, I mean, obviously it's one of those things where you never know. It could have, but...
If a clergy actually, did this kind of a thing.
Very bad, so...
the 60s and 70s were a tumultuous time for
They
a lot of
were.
clergy.
They were, yeah. But would one of them have realistically done this? That's where I kind of get this almost like storybook.
I can definitely understand that.
Vibe from it, to the point that I'm almost like, I mean, I wasn't offended by it at all, really. I don't know.
Well, there were nuns who thought that if you wrote with your left hand, you were actually using the hand of the devil. So
that was back a while ago.
Okay, yeah, there can be
many years ago.
Not that long ago.
Really?
Yeah, even during the time of my stepdad when he was at Catholic school.
Really?
Oh,
Really?
Yeah,
it was not that long. Every time when he wrote with his left hand, he got it slapped.
Wow.
Yeah, so not that long ago.
Yeah.
There are definitely extremists in every religion.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, at first I'm watching this, I was like, oh, this seems pretty good. And getting kind of the premise of it, it makes me scared. Because it's vague and it could go in different directions.
I agree with that. It was kind of vague.
It definitely was.
Very, very vague.
You know, when Vatican II happened, there was a lot of turmoil. There were a lot of people upset. And knowing people that were around at that time, or people whose parents were around at that time, I have heard stories of many people, it wasn't... For instance, most people focus on the Mass, which Vatican II didn't technically change, but it was changes that were brought about around the same time, roughly. Particularly with the change of the Mass, knowing people that had lived at that time, the change from going from the traditional Latin Mass to the Novus Ordo, it was very fast. It was very abrupt. And there were a lot of people who were very stunned by it. So some people resulted in getting extra angry. And some people, even on the other extreme, would say, oh, Vatican II didn't make women priests or do this or that. So there were people on both extremes that were just stunned and angry and going at each other. But then there were some people, at least again from the stories that I've heard from people who were there, that they at least wanted, even if this was going to be the overall change, they wanted to be able to have the traditional Latin Mass like they had before. They wanted to be able to see that reverence for Christ in the Eucharist, that when people took the Novus Ordo too far, this could sometimes disrespect the Holy Eucharist. And there were a lot of places that trying to initiate that, trying to full hardcore go into Novus Ordo, but like do it in a way that allowed abuse to the Eucharist. We're just kind of like, no, we're very firm about saying, no, you're not getting your tradition, and this is how things are done now. So it was a very anger-filled time, and seeing that there are a lot of, or just from the reviews being like, from like Hollywood and Los Angeles of saying, oh, this was so great, this was so great. There are a lot of times, even in the church today, where you will have Catholics heavily criticizing people. It's not nearly as bad, I don't think, as it used to be, but there are people that just like, oh, you're traditional? Oh, well then let's put this label on you of being hateful and just all these other things. And it's just like, well, no, that's not necessarily the case. This is kind of where this trailer worries me, because it's pairing all of those stereotypes that I see people angrily going back and forth at each other with the nun that's not happy about Vatican II for whatever reason. If it goes the way that I would fear it would go, I don't know, but the way I would fear it would go, I doubt that it's going to be helping anybody. It's just going to be, encouraging people who already hold that kind of opinion, and then just drawing more anger from one side, which will result in yelling on the other side and more gnashing back and forth at each other. I'm just like, no, please don't do this to me. On the other hand, that doesn't mean it's necessarily going to go this way, because the trailer was a little bit vague as far as that specific message. I think there is potential that, it could end up being good. But overall, I'm just kind of like, it does make me a little nervous seeing how society in general, or at least secular society, seems to be taking it at the moment. It gets me a little on edge.
I see.
I'll definitely be very interested to see how they portray the Reverend Mother, who comes across as, I guess, the villain in this trailer, but very firmly and adamantly stresses several times how much she loves the church and thinks it's perfect and the way it is. And perhaps her character will be an interesting, and insightful portrayal at frustration and faith and not wanting tradition to change, albeit manifested in a really poor way. But I think in Ned, when we talk about film, we like good villains or antagonists who actually have really strong character development and aren't just one-dimensional.
The reason why the nun seems very, or the mother seems very interesting, as you said, she is a bit more grounded in reality than a lot of people probably think. Maybe she might turn out to be a little bit over the top.
She's the villain in the movie who believes she's a heroine, who always make very interesting villains.
Yes.
Which is how villains in real life really are.
Yes.
They believe they're fighting for some greater cause.
Yes. And obviously, and the thing that'll be even more interesting about her is if this is how the movie is actually going in the direction that we positively hope it's going in. Obviously, some of the things that, obviously she believes that obviously it's not a bad thing. She, wants to, be, a servant of the Lord and all that. But obviously there were some practices that, that a lot of like religious people followed that were a little bit on the ridiculous side, as stated. Writing with your left hand is the hand of the devil, apparently. So along with a few other like little things, which is not saying that the religious were fanatics or anything like that. It was just there were some misinterpretations with certain things and whatnot. So it will be very interesting to see how she comes across in following like a lot of these very traditional or maybe traditional aspects. Where then Vatican II finally comes around, it's just like, you should tone down a little bit. So it will be very interesting to see how that comes around.
Yeah.
It is definitely possible that maybe there were some people that were like this specifically, or at least generally, but especially if it's not based on a true story, the main point I think we have to focus on is how they're representing what happened, and if they're just trying to say, like, trying to promote like extra hardcore liberal stuff in the church, and trying to paint traditional values in this too rigid sense, or if they're going to actually do it justice.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't want to say it's completely unrealistic, because I don't know if you've ever like seen YouTube stories about this woman testifying that the convent she went to was crazy, and like I've seen a few people like giving talks about, you know, they were ex-Catholics, they went to the convent and it was weird, and it was around that same time, you know, so I'm not saying like it's completely unrealistic.
It's just, obviously it's a trailer, so obviously we need to see a lot more things to implement, whether or not it is completely unrealistic or whether or not it's like more grounded in reality.
But it looks like it's a very well done movie, and there's a ton of actors in it. And
Like I said,
caliber actresses,
Like I said, I smell an artsy movie.
And what was that about Sony at the beginning?
Yeah, Sony's in charge of it, I'm guessing.
Okay.
So, this was just the trailer. We have not seen the film yet. So
we're not judging it yet.
We'll most likely see the film when it comes out mid-October. But just based on this trailer, did it make you interested and want to see the film?
It made me scared. So if
every Christian trailer ever,
for the sake of wanting to know whether it fulfilled those fears or if it did not, I want to. But if I was not into the whole film create thing, I might stay out of it. I might.
I think it looks scary.
Exactly.
Just from like a young woman's perspective, to be like stuck in there. Oh my gosh, it's really stressful to sit there and watch what's going on.
Well, it is coming out in October.
Yes.
Are you
month of all spooky things.
So you suggest we go see it as a Halloween?
Ned's prepared.
Yes. Ned loves his pumpkin shirt a latte.
I do.
That's it.
You can tell Renee's back because of the puns.
Oh, they're wonderful. Don't criticize her.
I criticize it.
Oh.
But yeah, I mean,
Just trying to spice up your life. Okay.
I love you, Renee.
Love you too, Ned.
But yeah, so I am a little bit interested because Vatican II has been a very big topic in my household. So
I can imagine.
Yes, where we have discussed why Vatican II was good. We have discussed why Vatican II is basically the spawn of the devil, amongst other things. You have to put it lightly. So I'm very interested in seeing like how the artistry behind how the movie was made, of course, and yeah, just the overall story. Don't be the young pope, please.
Please, we've had enough of that.
But hey, like you said, it is coming out in October, and that's when all the spooky things start to come out of their dark, scary caves.
So Renee, I think you said it looked very spooky to you.
Yes,
it's scary.
Just from a young woman's perspective, being stuck in there with those crazy ladies.
Renee would not go to this convent, clearly.
No, I would not. I mean, I might go to the movie, but I really have to go into it being like, this is a scary and very stressful movie.
It is rated R.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's going to be hardcore.
I'm going to have to bring my ID.
Well, maybe just the beard. They'll let you in.
Did you say beard or beer?
Beard! Then just bring beer, you can bribe your way in. No
Well,
problem.
I am old enough, so I'm older than all of you, so... Excuse me?
I said nothing. I'm taller.
Well, I'm taller than all y'all. So.
Okay.
Well, I'm a hobbit! So, David, what do you think?
I mean, it's not normally the sort of film I would go and see for like leisure viewing, but out of the Christian films that we've watched trailers for recently and go to review, this one looks interesting, intriguing, and potentially a really quality film.
Yes,
it doesn't come across to me like The Star did, which... But Anyways, I guess we'll see when it comes out in October. So I hope you stick with us and are around when we release our review. Thank you for watching, and God bless. We'll see you in the next video.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Fare thee well.